which I did at their house, and I wasn't very impressed because I thought if you're Christian, you should know how taxed I was, what time I didn't have no time, no sleep. And to ask me that, I thought it was
Yeah.
somebody who is
Should be a little
should
sympathetic.
should be led by the Lord, should have a little bit more of
Discernment.
discernment that this is what.
Overdoing it a little bit, eh?
That's right.
Yeah.
They were.
Person's only one
So-
human.
And then I went in. Then the Irish, the Austrian man, the old man, he asked me if I would want to live with him.
Huh.
And so then it was in the summertime, and she was making the best salads,
Really?
really delicious salads.
Wow.
I was impressed.
I just mentioned to Oppa that a friend of yours that you've gone out with a couple times as a group or whatever, you invited her to come for dinner tonight, and
Yeah.
her mom's Irish background, so then Oppa said, oh, they can make a really good salad.
Yeah, Opa, we're not like seeing each other exactly yet. We're still getting to know each other, so we're not committed or anything. But
How come you so red? Were you in the sun or what?
I think so. I've been in the sun a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, boy, you
Yeah.
look like on fire.
I when it's summer, I try to spend as much time as I can outside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want to get started from where we were? And I was just going to say something else, Dad. I could run. We have a few hours now before supper. I can run over to your place and get your tea. If you told me where they are. Are they in the bathroom?
Yeah, they would be.
Yeah, I can get them.
They're in the little glass.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get them.
Do you
Yeah.
need a drink of something, Dad?
One,
Do you want to drink a glass of water or a ginger
well, if
ale?
you had a glass of water would be
Okay,
fine.
sure.
Water or coffee?
Yeah, I had coffee.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get a water.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
So,
So
Okay.
I'm gonna go pick up Siobhan. So I'm gonna leave at 5. So we
Okay.
have 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it 3 already?
Wow.
Wow.
So
2
fast.
hours only.
Time goes so fast.
Yeah. You know that.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
so where did we
Yeah.
leave
So.
off last time?
Opa, we've done this twice now, and we covered your childhood and the war and your dad being away and the boat to Canada and when you met Uncle Ludwig. You told us a lot about your relationship with
Thank you.
with the Lord. We haven't gotten through much of your time being married and when the kids were born and more recently. So I'd like to talk about that if we can.
Sure.
So you did tell us that you met Oma in a church
Yes.
in the choir and you were
No. I met at the baptismal service
Okay.
in Toronto. The German people, they had, like the German Pentecostal church, when you started in Canada, there had a lot of people come from different parts of Europe and in Germany, and we had a German service, and so when in that church I got saved after I got to know Uncle Ludwig, and then we were invited to come to Toronto, and we came to what they call the Evangel Tabernacle, which a man by the name of A.W. Tozer, who wrote a lot of books and so about
Right.
holiness, he was the pastor of that church. And then we were invited to, they had the German people, the German group in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and they had different ones in St. Catharines and Hamilton, and,
Right.
and the ones in Toronto, they had a baptismal service, and they invited all the other churches to come and join them.
Mm.
So we from Kitchener, we went over there, and then I got to know Oma,
Mm-hmm.
and after the the service and so, then they would wait, all the young women, they would wait at the tables and as hosts to give us a nice meal and so on. And among one of those was Mama,
Okay.
Oma. And she looked so nice. Did you see that picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that girl,
right here.
she impressed me. She impressed me, and not only that, when I saw her, I knew that was going to be my wife.
Hmm.
And she told me the same thing.
Really?
When I left to go back to Kitchener, I said, you know, I would like to get to know you a little bit more. She said, I would too.
Oh.
And I said, well, I have some feelings when I got to see you. And so she said, I just the same. And she says, you know, you look like you're the one that I should have.
That's really nice.
And that the Lord led us together like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was a mighty good looking girl to
She's
follow,
beautiful.
to run after.
Yeah.
So,
So what do you think she liked about you?
what's that?
What do you think she liked about you? Did she tell you?
I don't know.
She didn't tell you.
She just liked me, and
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah. Sure. Just
Yeah.
got along well.
Of course, I had a trade, I had a job,
Yeah.
and so on, all the different things in
Yeah.
place, and so on. That I guess she must have liked, but we didn't concentrate on that too much.
Sure.
She would write me some real nice love letters. I wish I would be here and whatever else. And that. And it was nice,
That's
you know.
nice.
And the guys that I was chumming with, and I had a second-hand car, like a Monarch, what they call a Monarch at the time, and so on. They said, you know, Art, all you have to do is press a button. 20 West Drive, Toronto, and your car will find a way.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to going
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Every weekend I was seeing her then.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Opa, was, you know, one of the things actually that I talk to a lot of people about is there's been a lot of changes in the world while you've been alive, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
we talked about that a little bit already, but you were talking about writing letters because that's how you would have done it back then. Did you have a phone? I know you didn't have a cell phone, but was
Well,
there
we had
even
a
a
landline.
You did?
yes.
Okay. So would you talk to Oma that way at all?
Not too much.
No.
She wanted to tell me things that not everybody has to know.
I see. Yeah, yeah, I see. That's good. And then I think you told us a little bit about when you moved to a house. Was it on Cortlandt?
Mill Street.
Mill Street. Yeah. Okay. And you know, there was. I think you were renting out part of it even to make
Yeah,
some
the
extra money.
upstairs, the most of the house.
Right. So was that before the kids were born? Or
no,
after?
No. Harold and Heidi were born already.
Okay.
They were little toddlers.
Do you remember from that time, like, are there any memorable stories you have of them as kids? Like any funny things they said, or did any of them try to run away, or you know, any interesting stories you remember from when they were really young?
Well, Heidi, one time, somebody brought a home carrier in the house. She was on the way to school, and a young student from the Waterloo University hit her with a car because he was going over an incline, and he didn't slow down. He didn't see Heidi crossing the street behind her, like behind the hill, and he picks her up with a car, and he knocked her, like at the point, she had a cut in the mouth on the lip, and she still has the scar of it.
Oh.
And we right away went and got her looked after at the hospital, and so
Yeah.
he was very apologetic, and
Sure.
well, we knew, but you know, it pays to be careful, you know.
Yeah.
When you get people driving with a bus and that, And a lot of times right now we still have a lot of narrow streets, but there's only two ways, one this way, the other one the opposite way. And then when the bus stops, and this is something in the designing of the city, the city elders, I think there's something lacking there with their intelligence. They should make a little bit of an indentation on the side of the road so that the bus could get off the street,
Right.
so
Out
that
of the
people
way.
could get in and out the bus safe,
Yeah.
and that the traffic wouldn't be held up. Right now, when you go down on Cortlandt and so, especially now since they have that railroad crossing there,
Mm-hmm.
or the rail, the city rail,
Yeah.
every time the boom goes down, which in Germany they don't have, even in the villages they don't have booms.
Hmm.
Everything is over the street, like
Oh,
over
yeah.
the traffic or under the traffic.
Right. Yeah.
And here, you get in the middle of the city, you get a boom coming down. So the traffic is backed up both
Yeah.
ways, and some of like Oliver Street on the other side gets very busy at that time
Mm-hmm.
because the rush hours and so, and then in the time when the children get picked up, you're supposed to drive 40 kilometers an hour and all that to begin with, and then you got the bus stopping there, so you got the traffic all the way down the street and traffic the other way, and
Yeah.
the side streets, they're all waiting for the main traffic to move. That, to me, that is so poor that I cannot believe how they get away with that.
I
They're building high rises and everything in the city and all this stuff. Why can't they make a provision for the bus?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Because there's these people that live in these high rises aren't going to have their own cars for the
That's-
most part. So,
yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make any sense. And when I've seen other places, like, so I went to school in London, you know, and they have not only the light rail, but a freight train, like the Canadian National Freight Train, goes right through the downtown, and it
That's
screws
funny.
up the whole downtown at rush hour every
It's
day.
unusual. It shouldn't be. They should know better.
They should.
And when they put in a lot of new streets, they put in, and the bottom main, where the water should collect off the street water,
Mm-hmm.
the rainwater, they put them in a way that they're just under the wheel of the car all the time.
Right.
Why can't they not put it in the middle of the lane that it
Right.
would be between the tires?
Yeah.
Every time you dive, you always go
Boom.
bump,
Yeah.
bump,
Yeah.
bump. And it's hard on the car and hard on the road.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's backwards.
where the intelligence comes in.
Yeah. I know.
And the city elder or city father, they should fire people like that. They don't know any better than they're just not supposed to work as engineers
Sure.
and make big money.
Yeah. Exactly.
They don't belong there.
No. I agree. Yeah, and when I've gone to other cities like Berlin and Chicago,
Hmm.
they put their trains up high, right, out of the
That's
way.
way it should be.
Yeah,
Even in Germany, the little villages, they don't have that.
right.
That's
So, how long did you live at Mill Street?
At Mill Street, I lived there maybe 2 years.
Okay. Before my dad was born.
Yeah,
So he was born in '63.
yeah.
So where were you living then?
When your dad was born,
Mhm.
now I gotta think.
Mhm.
I think maybe in Bobecker.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point you moved to a farm. I know because my dad talks about that.
Yeah.
So where was that? Was Maryhill or?
No, that was in Bright,
Okay.
and it was just outside of Bright, and that's because Oma had a lot of dogs.
Right.
She wouldn't want to part with the dogs.
Right.
You could have had a triplex that was just about paid for and so, and we had a little bit of mortgage on it, which was for my brothers. And they would have paid it, and we would have had some income that would have carried all or because we could rent out 2 apartments, live in a third.
Mm-hmm.
But almost she was so determined to have so many dogs, and you cannot have more than 3 dogs in the city.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have a place where you have at least 25 acres to be allowed to have a dog kennel. So that's what motivated everything for us to go to the farm. And then I traded off with the farmer who was an investor from Germany, bought one farm after another, and so on. He was just about to push that one farm over. The building was so dilapidated, it was just, there were 2 old men living there. They had no kitchen cupboard, nothing, just a wall-hung basin and a little bar hanging over top of it. That was the kitchen. The stairs going upstairs, the nice stairs, oak stairs and that, everything nice. They were caved in and the railings were hanging down. The floor was sank down and so on. It was big, like thick pine floor. And I said, okay, I said, if you let me live here and give me reduced rent, then I'll fix up your house for you. Then you don't have to push it over.
Sure.
And that made sense to him, and but he was happy to have done it because I fixed up the place. I put a new roof on, did some sidewalks for him, outside graded everything around there, helped to make it nice, and I had a 25, 30-foot long porch facing the creek. And it was all, needed to be done over, did all that. And when I moved in, I worked at Preston Building Supplies at the time, which was in Preston. And I ran the woodworking shop. And then
That's what you were doing while you lived on the farm at first? You were
that
working
was
at
when on the first farm.
Yeah.
And then I said to your mom, or to your Oma,
Yeah.
that I'm going to get you some cupboards when we move in there.
Mm-hmm.
And after a week, and then I was working overtime a little bit, and so I prepared my cupboards, made everything like in parts, so I could take it home in the truck. I had a pickup truck. And then Friday night I would bring it home, and I would say to Oma, okay, tomorrow morning we get up early. By the time the day is over, at the end of the day, you're going to see some cupboards there. And she was excited. Yes, of course, she was helping me. So at the end of the day, we had the cupboards in place, nice doors with a little bit of air, fancy them up and so. And she was happy. Now she had a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
That was in one day. Put it all together, assembled it, and installed it. And then I did the stairs. I went in the basement. I put a big pad of cement on the bottom in the basement, and I put teleposts on there so that I could jack up the floor. And I had to do every time just a little bit because otherwise it would rip the walls, make too many cracks.
Right.
So eventually I got it to the height that it made it level. And then I put the stairs, I fixed the stairs, and put the railing back in place. And then I varnished the floor, I sanded the whole floor in the house. And I put urethane on it. And all at once it was nice and white. And when I came the next morning looking at it, it was dark brown. I thought, how come?
Uh-oh.
It has a chemical reaction that the material that I used wouldn't agree with it, and it turned everything brown. So I had to re-sand the whole sphere, and then I used paraffin.
Okay.
And paraffin kept the color of what I had, so that was a plus.
Yeah.
But it's all this extra work.
Yeah, it must be tiring.
And all the walls, they were breaking up because they had for walls, they had plaster on the wall. You know what the plaster consisted of?
What's that?
Of mud and horsehair.
Horsehair? Like, because it was a farm, so.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
And that's they used up for insulation between the timber and that. You know, they didn't have studs like we have now.
Yeah.
They had round timber and that. They filled it up with horsehair and then they put the mud and then they made the cement out of it. So that was the wall.
Was that unusual for back then?
Well, it started getting to be unusual because the house was antique.
Yeah.
It was before the unusual.
Sure.
So
So, Opa,
then I repaired a lot of the walls and I painted everything. And
how long of a project was that till you were satisfied
About
with
a
it?
year and a half, anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah, spent a lot of work and time.
for sure.
And that's all after hours work. I worked the day at the shop.
Yeah.
And then after that, in the evening, I would work till midnight, sometimes later, and Saturdays, of course. And I spend all the time just working on fixing the place up
Mm-hmm.
and making also places for Oma to have a run, like different areas in a shed.
Yeah.
So that she could partition it, have a partition off for the dogs to be in. And so some of the breeding and so on, you know, and they had to be separated. So that was my lot.
Yeah.
And Oma, she was excited to have it and she was happy to have it.
Yeah.
But then there were times that were not so good sometimes. We had the Mennonites, the farmer gave us a notice one time and Oma phoned me in the afternoon, Friday afternoon. She says that the people are going to come. They're going to come the next day with a whole lot of Mennonites to take a big pole barn down. And there were about a half a dozen to a dozen people that come, and they were all over the place. And it was just at the end of the summer, it was already starting to snow, and so we had mud on the ground and all this, and some amount of snow, and then it was raining on top of that, and the dogs had to be moved from there because I made that area into kennels at the first.
Right.
And then I didn't know how to, and all the stuff that we had left over from the houses, all of our whatever we usually save, you know, when you move, all that was in the barn. And how to get from there over to the house, and how to bring all the material over to make a dog run.
Yeah.
You know, then, and did you come back already? Yeah, and
Quick.
then we had to do that all in one day. We had to, in the evening, we worked late in the evening at trying to get all the stuff out of the barn and that. And your dad had a motorcycle accident before that. His foot was in a cast, and then later on he came to help, and he had his cast was all wet because he was trying to help us in the weather. And then I didn't know how to get it all over there to carry it over because it was a good distance still from the barn to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Then I took a piece of plywood and I put holes in each of the corners of one side, and I put ropes on and hung it behind the bumper of the car, and I slid everything, put everything on there, and I slid it over to the house.
Like a
with that.
sled.
Like a sled,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we built up the run so that the dogs would have a place to be. So these were tough times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There,
Okay.
got some teeth. So, Opa, I want to back you up a little bit. So, when you married Oma, did she have dogs?
No.
So when did she become
She
interested
was
in
such
dogs?
a gentle little girl. Look at her.
Yeah.
She she never thought about dogs. She was scared of dogs.
Really?
But then she got to know the dogs a little bit, and then she got liking, and then all of us, she fell in love, and then she wanted to breed them.
So who was the first dog?
Our
Do you
first
remember?
dog I think we had was Lassie, and then we had Tippy. This Opa's right here. Lassie, I think,
Yeah.
was the first.
We had Lassie,
Was that your
Yeah.
first dog with Oma, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
and then the kids, they liked Lassie.
Yeah.
We were at the beach at, what's it called?
What's it saying? Or Bomb?
Bomb Beach, and then Lassie, she got in trouble. There was a skunk in the area,
Oh.
and she was chasing the skunk, and the skunk, of course, had a big tail with a defense mechanism, and
Yeah.
it sprayed the dog so bad, the whole house, everything stank. We couldn't stand it. So David, your dad, and Uncle Harold, I guess, they went over to Midland, and they got all kinds of tomato paste and
Oh.
whatever, and we rubbed the dog with that, tried to get rid of the flavor. But that was quite an experience. And then we had Tippy, and
Tippy.
Tippy would be swimming in the lake until she would go down.
Mhm.
She couldn't. So loyal, she always wanted to be with us.
She'd be standing on the mattresses.
Yeah,
And when we got Tippy, sorry to interrupt, but Mom and Dad, you came to our school. Harvey and I were in Cedar Brae School, in public school. I was in maybe grade 4 and Harvey in grade 1. And you told us it was just, you called us out of our class, or it was lunchtime. It was lunchtime, and you got us from the field, and you called us over, and you said you got a little surprise in the car, and we were supposed to look, and it was a puppy that you just got from Zeller's. It was supposed to be a miniature husky,
yeah.
but and then we wanted to come home right away from school, but you said no, you stay in school, and then after you can see him after school.
Mhm.
But that made our day.
Probably didn't get any work done that day.
No, I don't think
It,
so.
it was a miniature husky.
It sure
all right.
wasn't.
Very, very miniature.
How big
It
was
looked more
this?
like a boxer, right?
Yes,
Yes. And the Tippy, no, Lassie was that a husky too?
she was golden retriever.
Oh, okay.
And Tippy was a Mongol. She was Heinz 57.
and then so were those breeding dogs?
They were,
Were they breeding dogs?
no.
No. So more dogs came.
Tippy, they were just pets. Yeah.
Yeah. But then there was more dogs
Yeah, then
later.
After,
I
then
think,
after we bought a real husky.
yeah, I think Tippy, somebody found him drowned at the conservation area, and we were all so upset. And then you got a husky after that,
Yeah.
a real husky,
A
Not
real husky.
not a miniature husky.
Yeah. And then eventually, of course, one is no good. You gotta have a partner, you know.
Yeah.
And so then we got another one, and they multiplied.
On purpose?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did
And then of course I started the kennel then.
yeah. So I'm gathering, like, when Oma started breeding dogs, that obviously took her time away from you and
Yeah.
everything. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, her mind was her mind was all dogs then.
Yeah.
I didn't have too much of a wife. I had more dogs as companion
Yeah.
than my wife.
I understand. So before we get to that, did you like having dogs around? Like, do you like animals?
I like animals. I like all of the dogs. The only thing is I didn't want to trade myself or trade my wife for the dogs.
Yeah.
I
So
thought that my wife is more important to me than the dogs. And I was hoping that she would think the same way about me.
I completely understand how you would feel.
Yeah.
What was that something hard for you guys? Like, did you have fights about that, or?
Well, we didn't fight about it. I just took it as this is the way it is, and
Yeah.
that's the way it is. I would bring home rice, bags of rice, and I would bring dog bones from butchers and so on. Then Oma would cook her own dog food because we were poor, but she wanted to feed the dogs, and she found out what's the best way to do it, and we bought some cheap chicken, and she would make rice and chicken. She would make a good a good stew out of it, and they were doing good. They had good skin and fur. Everything was nice. They were healthy,
Mm-hmm.
but that took a lot out of Oma.
Yeah.
She was very exhausted, and it was quite a stressful thing for her.
Sure.
And I was not really happy about that, but that's the way it was, and that's the way it's got to be. I try to be a good husband.
Yeah, I know. I actually, I'll tell you more about this later, but I met a German fellow a few weeks ago. I bought a barbecue from him. He's 83 years old. So I was learning a little bit about his life, actually. And he told me a saying, which I can't repeat because it was in German, but it was, I think basically, that's the way it was, and that's the way it's got to be.
Mm-hmm.
But in German. Is that a German saying?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Can't relate to it.
I'll try to remember it. I'll try to ask him about it.
So war es, so habe ich es getan.
Okay, maybe.
I'll try to figure it out. What kind of dogs was Oma breeding? Was it Huskies?
Mini Huskies then.
Yeah.
And also Golden Retrievers
Hmm.
at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But we went out of Golden Retrievers, we went into Huskies more. And we had one Golden Retriever, was called Tammy, I think.
I know Tammy.
And she was a rascal. She would go run along the dog runs, the kennels, and she would get all the dogs excited and all rattled up, and they would bark at her and be, very aggressive. And then she would jump she could climb over the 6-foot fence, like the enclosure, and then she would go on top of the dog, sit right on top of the dog, and domineering the dog. She was a female, and she was the boss.
Tammy the Retriever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So,
And then almost she was upset, of course, and she would, sometimes then they get fighting over it, and then because she got them all fighting each other and so on, then Oma would go and grab them by the cheek, both of them, both chicks, and look them in the eye and say, no, and a girl that I dated turned into a woman like that. I never thought that she was able to be like that, but that's what she turned out to be.
And what did you think?
And I was not too impressed, but so it is. You're married, and that's for life.
Yeah, and look, Opa, I loved Oma. I don't want you to speak poorly of her, but I want to know how you feel, right? So,
Yeah. Well, that's the honest truth.
yeah.
And she would, she was in charge. She kept the dogs under control, and they had to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have any? Okay, so Dad was born in '63, and Harvey '66.
Yeah.
So, you have any good family vacations after that?
How does that work?
So, am I wrong?
Dad in 63 and Harvey in 56.
60.
66.
Yeah.
Well, I understood
Yeah.
56.
My fault. Do you remember any family vacations after that were really memorable?
We went to BC.
Yeah, we went to BC.
We went to South Carolina and Florida.
Yeah. We've been traveling a little bit and going out to the West Coast. We were at the Geyser, the Old Faithful. And we were at some of the mountains that were sort of important, and where they have that big lift and so, and yeah, we've been around Lake Louise and different places there.
How'd you choose where to go?
was we had a pickup truck, which at that time I was doing trim carpentry work, and I had a pickup truck, and because it cost so much money to rent something or whatever, I made that pickup truck into our bedroom. And I put a piece of plywood in between that, like in the height of the back of that, the back of the truck was closed in, and so on. Then halfway up, I put it like a floor in there. Some of the kids would be at the bottom, some at the top, and so on. Then we had a little window to the drivers in the front, and we could communicate like that. That was quite nice, quite interesting.
So you and Oma would be in the cabin of the car
Yeah.
with the seats, and then the kids would be in the back?
Yeah,
Cool. And did you drive to BC then?
yeah.
Wow.
We
Long trip?
drove all the way, and then I've got pictures where we had the dog with us, and I was feeding him an ice cream at the window.
The dog. Nice. What was your favorite trip?
My favorite trip?
Yeah.
I can't really recall.
Okay.
We had a nice one in, well, the BC was maybe the nicest trip, but we wanted to move to South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Another-
We were in South Carolina for a while for vacation, and then I saw what could they IHOP,
International
Restaurant.
Pancake, yeah.
International House of Pancake, and they came up with a nice treat that was with pecan pie, and oh, was that ever delicious. And we made sure we would go and have that. And I was, in fact, I was so involved in getting something like that started in Canada. There was only one place, and I was in BC, and I would have been the first one in Ontario. I had a lawyer working on it, and I spent a few $1,000 with a lawyer ready to make preparations that we could get the franchise in Canada. And then they declined because we were supposed to have a signature building, which from the top, from the airplane, you could tell what kind of a building it is, who was in there. So then that fell apart, but we still liked the IHOP, which was nice. And what else was there? There was something else I was just thinking of.
So you were thinking of moving there a new building because they,
Yeah, they had a lot of cheap building lots and all that.
yeah.
I would have moved there, and they didn't let me get into the States.
Or you would have. Like
Yeah.
you thought IHOP was such a good business that was motivating you, or?
Yeah, I was at that time, I was a builder,
Right.
started building, and so on. Then the depression sort of came on, where the building in Canada came to a standstill because the funding was not available. People couldn't get no mortgages, and then all the builders and people who had properties and so land that they wanted to build on, they couldn't build on it because they didn't have no money. And then they had to carry all those lots, and it cost money to do that. And so, and then I was talking with the people in Waterloo. They even gave me a diploma to take along as for reputation that I was one of the better builders in Waterloo. I used to build a house there. Oh, I asked for building permits. They would say, Art, we're too busy. You go ahead and build your house and we'll catch you on the way up.
Because they knew you.
I already had my roof on before they could give me a building permit.
Wow.
He said, we trust you, you're doing a good job, we don't have to worry about you.
Wow. Different time, eh?
Yeah.
So, I, I, Dad, I think you're probably being picked up.
Okay, sorry.
So when did you start working on houses? Like,
I
was it
started
when you did your
about
own, or?
in 1968.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I built a house on Pinewood Crescent, and there was a street that's in Lakeshore in the bush, and most of the builders they were building on the same street.
Hmm.
So I happened to be one of them then.
And how did you get involved in that?
I wanted to increase, and I like to be on my own, which I always was. That's why I was a trim carpenter, and so I'd like to be able to call my own shots and you know, be in charge of a business, and that way I can do whatever I want and to help my business to improve my income and all,
Yeah.
you know, it's just a good way. In the middle of the 70s, I was a $750,000 millionaire already, and at that time was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the banks holding up the money, and so I could not get any mortgages, and then I had to get a demand loan, which a lot of them got, and many of the builders went belly up, and they wanted me to pay back $165,000 within a month. And where could I get it? I couldn't get anything anywhere. So then my lawyer, he said, okay, Arthur, I think I can help you with that. So I said, then he made some arrangement. He says, I'll let you know when I know a little more about it. So then they made an arrangement that to meet me at the Royal Trust building and at a certain floor at a certain time. And so I came over there, and when I opened the door, I saw a few men sitting there behind a counter, like you sit in court usually, you know, 1, 2, 3, like the judges. So then they said, hi, Mr. Schnell, you have some need of money, so how can we help you? I said, well, I could need some financing because the bank is after me to get the money such and such in so much time, and I just can't get it together. Oh, that's not a problem, we can help you with that. And I said, what is the interest rate going to be? They said 24%. I said, I'm so sorry, gentlemen, that you come all the way from Toronto, spend all morning here, but I cannot give you 24%. Then I might as well give it to the bank and let them have it, and they'll be in charge, and I'll have no more worry. I said that it just doesn't serve me.
No.
So that was sad. But then they came and they cleaned me out. They took everything that I owned. My whole life savings was gone. Over 30 years of hard work.
Do you remember what year that was?
I was in
80 or 79?
no, I was in the mid-70s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so were you still living on that farm at that point?
No, I was living in a nice house
Okay.
that we built. It was a real nice house.
And did you get to
And I
keep
thought
that?
this was going to be, I built a couple of them that I thought would be my last house, but that was specially built, was overbuilt. And then I thought that's where we're going to stay, and we lived there for 7 years, and then they took it all away from me.
Including that one?
Yep.
So where'd you go from there? And how did you how did you pick yourself back up?
Now I got to think.
So then we went to Maryville.
Yeah, I then at the time I had $1,800 left after real estate. That's all the money that I was left with. Because they gave everything away for nothing almost. And then I was a farmer. He had a piece of land, about 7 acres. They were on the book, on the real estate book. I saw a lot for sale, and lots were very scarce at the time to get any building lots. But this land was available, and that's in Mary, on the edge of Mary Hill, which is still a distance from Kitchener, from where all the action is. But anyways, I thought, okay, I was interested. I looked at it, and you know what? I then realized why people didn't want to buy that lot.
Why?
Because as soon as you stepped off the highway, your feet were wet. They had full ash way up high and water standing there and so on. Man, I thought, I know now. And I prayed about it. And then the Lord gave me an idea. He said, why don't you dig a trench and go to, there's a trench from the bottom up, and ask the farmer to let you do that. And then go to the place where it was the most wet. And you know what happened? I knew. I didn't tell the farmer. He sold me the lot for quite cheap. He even gave me financing to build a house on it. What I did this event with a backhoe, I dug a trench right to where it was most wet, and there was a spring in there, and the water was just bubbling. But before I started digging a hole there, I ordered a truck with stone, like crushed stone, and also I ordered a backhoe, and I ordered a truck with some well tiles. And I dug a hole, and the more I dug it down, the faster the water would come out.
Right.
And then I put the gravel in and put tile on top of that and filled in around it, and so, and then I let the water off down the hill, and that was beautiful drinking water. I tested out in City Waterloo. They gave me a good ticket. They said, you can tell that. You can bottle it and sell it.
Wow.
So
Good investment
at
then.
the time, I got the lots of cheap. I got good drinking water for free. And there was so much water coming out of there that I built a house, and in front of the house I made it like a fish pond, a good-sized fish pond.
Wow.
And there was Tippy, or was it Tommy, a golden retriever.
Probably Tippy, because I met Tammy when I was born in 1990. Oh, there was two Tammys?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that dog would go in the water in the spring, and would go out through the summer. She would be in the pool, and inside all the time. And then she would get tired, and then she would go on lay on the porch because I had a big balcony out the on the one side, and would dry up. And as soon as the dog was dry, she would jump back in again. And after the summer, she smelled like a fish. And then David and his friend Siegfried, they would go and they would come with some goldfish and put them in there.
That's cute.
Yeah, and we built a nice house there. And at that time, I went to the Wilmot Town Center, it's like a building department for the Wilmot County. And they gave me permission to build several houses, maybe 5 or 6 building lots that they will allow me to make and sell. And at the bottom of the hill, there was a creek, it's called Hopewell Creek. And on the other side was a subdivision just backing onto it. And I could have sold parcels of that land to these people. They would have been glad to give me a couple $1,000 each. That would have helped me. And so, but then...
There was about 7 properties that were backing onto this creek, and each one, you know, could have
Yeah.
bought like 50 feet from
Yeah.
from Dad, or something.
Yeah,
So
So
did you sell it to them?
no. What I did then, what happened here?
Then I think you were gonna sell. You had a chance
Yeah,
to sell
there
the.
was a Christian school,
So he built the house and
a
everything.
reform school.
Sorry, but things were still really, really tight financially, and we couldn't keep the house.
Mm-hmm.
It was still too.
Still too tight to hang on to it like that.
So then he was
Unless
looking,
I
and
would have sold something.
he was looking, and he found this bungalow in Cambridge. So
Yeah,
then you could
But
finish.
there were a couple of people she was, one was a teacher and the other one was the principal of the reform school in Baden, or no, in Breslau rather.
That's where.
And
Mike
they
went to high
would come
school.
out in the summer and they see and I working in the yard and so on. They would say, don't you sell it. If you ever sell that property, we would like to buy it from you. Because we are riding horses and so we would like to use that and have it. And they came out different times and so don't sell it to anybody else. So then, okay, if the time came, I thought, okay, we had enough of the house was just about finished and so, and and myself, we were in the basement and we did everything ourselves. And then at night, when we would lay in the basement to go to sleep, then the furnace would go on and the insulation would come into our faces. And so, and I still have to marvel how almost stuck it out with me like that. But she was right there, you know, like
Hard
why
worker.
should we? And then these people, we kept put up for sale, and then the people they came with the real estate with an offer,
Mm-hmm.
and they were going to give us the money, and we would have made good money because we did all that work there. We would have put it back on our feet, and so and then after we agreed to sell it, and then we bought a house with on the strength of that deal. We got financing, bridge financing from the Royal Trust to buy a house on the edge of Cambridge on the way to Brantford. And it was a race bungalow I bought, and it had 2 acres of land for sale, like it was on 2 acres. And I went to the North Dunford Township and got permission that they would split it in half.
Mm-hmm.
So I could sell 1 acre and on the other we would live. And that would again generate some money and so, which was good. So it costed us $60,000 only at the time, which was a very good price. And I would have paid the house off in no time and we would have been debt free. And no, what happened then, the people backed out. We moved into the house, and then the people backed out because they said that one of them, they had an escape clause in there that the other person would have to see the house once more.
Mm-hmm.
Because one was in Stratford, the other one was in Kitchener at the time. And then they backed out, and now all that was left was 2 places. And that did me in them. I had a fellow, Mr. Bart was his name, he was my accountant when I was building houses and so, and he with me, we went to the Royal Trust and we bargained with them for them to wait a little until we would have the money we'd give back to them. And that was what we got from them, was only $30-some thousand, very little money in comparison to what, you know, the value and all. But the guy who was just a young rookie, he wouldn't let us get away without it. He just demanded the money, and then they again took everything that we owned.
So that was after you already dealt with the
But
housing
yeah.
crisis.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was terrible.
Yeah.
So now comes the trouble that from there on we moved to the farm.
Right.
Yeah.
You came to this property in 1985.
88.
Okay.
Yeah.
You started arts in 85.
Yeah.
What was between?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were you doing between the story you just told me and arts?
He was
I-
when you left Cambridge, you were still working at Preston, eh?
Yeah.
He was working
I
at
worked
Preston
at
Building.
Preston Building Supplies, and in the meantime, your dad had a motorcycle accident,
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about that. Can we talk about that?
and
That was still when we lived in Cambridge.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Then at night, the police phoned us and said, "Is that your son?" We had to identify him. Yes, that's our son. Well, we picked him up off the road in front of a laneway, and so when the motorcycle is laying in the ditch and he's been laying somewhere else, and then they took him to the hospital in Cambridge, and from there they took him to the Grand River Hospital in Kitchener, and then when we came in, and the surgeon who was the best surgeon in the area, Dr. Israel, he came out from the operating room and he says, "Mr. Schnell, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to take the leg off." I said, "Dr. Israel, no," I says, "it won't heal, it's just all splinters. It cannot heal." And I said, "Well," I bargained with him, I said, "This is just a young fella, he's got his whole life ahead of him. Even if it's not perfect, but do something, you know." So then he said, "Okay, because you asked me like that, I'm going to go and look at it once more." And then he came out after with David, and David had a cast on.
Or no, I had pins.
And then they put some pins in there and clamps, and they pulled it together as clamps and put the plaster around it. And everybody were praying from the camp meeting where I was going, and all the friends were praying for a whole year. And so, like every time the plaster came off, the leg would just go bump. And then one morning, and I was at Preston Building Supply there, and I ran the woodworking shop, so I had a little bit of flexibility. Your dad then came and he said, "Dad, I'm going to have to get my plaster changed this morning again. Would you want to come with me?" I said, "Sure, David, I'll go with you." And then I went to the owner, the manager, the owner of the place, and I said, "I'm going to go with my boss for a few hours. I'll be back as soon as I can." So then I went with him to the hospital. And then when he was there, when the plaster came off again, then his leg was going plump again. And just so happened,
This is probably after 5 months already.
yeah, at least,
Yeah, 5 or 6.
and then Dr. Israel was just walking past the door happened to be open. He just gave a glance, I saw that, and he kept on walking, and he must have thought, "I told you, you know."
Mm-hmm.
But then I said to the technician, I said, "You put the plaster on, can I hold the foot in place, and you put the plaster on?" And I prayed, "Lord, give this boy his foot back." And God answered. The next time the plaster came off, the leg was together.
It's
And
amazing.
then your dad had a lot of pain after that because I had to do skin grafting and fill up the hole and all that. And not too long ago, I asked your dad, I said, David, how is your leg? Because he was hurting and so on. He says it's just as good, maybe better than the other one.
Yeah. It's not that break anymore that has any pain. It's just the joints, but the broken area is never sore.
Yeah, it's
But
amazing.
God answers prayers.
Mhm.
He answers prayers.
That must have been a stressful time, though, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they came to the hospital from the other side of Cambridge to Kitchener every night and visited with me for a good couple hours.
You and
Mom
Oma?
and Dad.
Yeah. Was Oma pretty stressed about it?
What's that?
Was Oma pretty upset about the whole thing, or?
No, it's our child.
Yeah, but no, just stressed, like concerned. That's what he means.
Yeah, well, of course she was concerned.
Yeah.
But what don't you do for your children?
No,
Yeah.
of course.
And then there was a nurse, and your dad was complaining my head hurt so much, and so I said, why don't you go and give that boy an x-ray and find out what's wrong with him? Oh, he's just complaining all the time. I said, no, he's not complaining all the time. He's not that type of boy. You go and check his head and find out what's going on. And then they found out that he had a blood clot in his head. So then they drilled a hole and let the blood come out, sucked it out, I guess, whatever. And ever since then the headache was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any other significant, periods of stress or like major events that happened, either between you and Oma or with any of the other kids that were like hard times for you?
No, I love my kids and the kids love the parents and they were all good kids.
Yeah.
Only thing is, your dad was an instigator.
Yeah, like how?
He would tell Harvey when they were going to school, and in the Pine Grove, he would tell him, go and beat up that guy. And Harvey would go and beat him up.
That was just when we were at a camp one time, a church camp, of all places. Yeah.
So Dad would get into trouble?
Well,
No,
we both.
they were good kids.
Yeah. But so before that, we were just we had to leave the house in Cambridge because the bridge financing fell through. The people backed out of the deal.
Yeah.
And then Opa managed to find a place to be able to rent for $150 a month, a farm. But he had to do, this German came over a few years before that and started buying properties that were on auction. And this particular one was a couple of old men lived there and didn't do anything because they were too old to do anything. And so everything was neglected and unkept. And Opa had to, the deal was $150 a month. And the guy was going to he bought a number of farms, but he was going to make this one his home base. And it had a really nice wood barn on it and a lot of land. And but the house needed some work and needed cupboards first thing and needed the floors
Opa told
done.
me about this, sorry.
Yeah, oh did he? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
While you were gone.
Okay.
But to come back to living on Daleview,
Yep.
your dad, he had a friend called Siegfried.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys, and everybody, like all the children had their own bedroom. And they were on a balcony, so they could go out to the balcony. And these two guys, they would slide down the balcony at night, just when they're supposed to be in bed. And I found out that they're not there. Then I went with my truck and looked for them at Forest Hill, not Forest Hill, in Lake Shore.
Yeah.
And bearing a road, I drove down the street and so, and Siegfried told me, there goes your dad again. This is pickup, up and down, looking for the boys. That's how bad these guys were. That's what I had to put up with. Those were my rascal boys.
Yeah, we were the rascals.
You wouldn't have done anything like that back in Uslar.
No,
No,
we were
never.
so innocent. Oh,
So then you started arts with my dad. How did that come together?
well, I started arts before your dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just finishing up being a foreman at a window factory. They made me a foreman because they saw that I could do better than what they had. And the foreman, he would have people standing there and doing nothing. And I was in a special room by myself, and they had about 30 people on production line and so, but they couldn't do the windows. They said because they didn't have the frame yet to put the sash inside, you know, the openers and so on. Then they had a few guys standing there around, you know, and I said, Helmut, what are these guys doing there? He said, well, we can't do it because we haven't got the frames yet. I said, Helmut, that's not the way it works. You get those guys busy, get them to do something, you know? Come with me, I'll show you. So I then on the stick, I laid out the whole window that they're going to build. And every part, every component, I marked it out on the stick. You can cut it off there and that, and it's that long and that, and so on. You make that all, and then when it gets together, that you have everything done, then you can put the sash in. But you know, these sashes there, you can make all the sashes now, and you know, get all the material ready. That by the time you get your frames done, your sash is all ready. You know, you don't have to wait one for the other.
Have all these men standing around.
Then he said, can you do that? I said, of course you can do it. That's the way it works. I said, oh. Then he went with me to the office to the owner and says, I don't know, we just figured out how to get the guys busy, you know. So, all right. Then the father-in-law came back from the holidays. He was on holidays at that time. And they had a big arbor out of wood. Had to be all curved and so, you know, and of course the depth and all that, you know. You can't just make that out of just pieces and cut it, you know. And so I built the arbor for them, which they were impressed. And then they had the big bow window to be made. Somebody bought a bow window from the showroom. And nobody would know how to build that window other than the father-in-law, because he was doing all the show windows for them. And then they told me about that. I said, I'll make you a window. I even make you a set up a frame, and so that anybody else can do it. And so, can you? Yes. Oh, okay. So I built him a bow window and so, you know, and then the father-in-law came back and he then put his bench beside my bench because we were the only ones in our room, and he watched me all the time, you know, and then just a couple of days after that, they said, you're supposed to be our foreman now. So I said, oh, and they had the place already, somebody's manager at the time. They sent out unfinished windows to King Carden, and the owner, he was a soccer player. He went to the Concordia Club. He had a lot of buddies there that he hired to do windows. They were in a cabinet because they were soccer players. And then they go out on construction there, and they had to send out the frames so that the bricklayer would have something to put the bricks on. The builders demanded to get that, you know. They
So
didn't
can
want to
keep
wait that
going.
long.
Yeah.
So then these guys, they would go out with a truck, no power tools, no nothing, and so on. And they're supposed to make that sash to go inside, you know, and they lost so much money, and I saw all that. I thought, boy, oh boy. Then when they called me to be the foreman, I said, okay, tomorrow morning we're going to have a meeting. So I called all the guys together. I said, from now on, nothing goes on that big truck unless I look at it. I want to see every window going out on the truck, that everything is perfect before we let it go. Sure, everything agreed. And before I knew, they were taking windows off, putting them back on again, try to fix it and so, you know. And then the culprits, the worst culprits were the owner's sons. He had 2 sons. And they would put the windows, I said, no, come on, the windows got to come off once more. I want to see them once more after you fix them to make sure that they're okay. And so that kind of straightened this out. And so, but then by that time, after a few weeks and so, you know, then the people who were investors from Germany who gave them money to build the building to where they were doing all this work and all, they wanted to close the place up because they were getting into default too much with owing too much money.
Mm.
They overspent because of poor management. So I saw the light, and so then they wanted me to be, then they came to me then as from the finance company, and they had a general manager they put in, and then Art, you're the production manager now, and when Albert, the owner, comes, you show him the door. He's finished here now, it's got no more right to go in here. I said, so you don't tell me that, because they're good people and they were good to me. I would not do that. If you want to send somebody out the door, tell them that you do that, not me.
I agree.
And so that's the way I played it. And then they had one time, and I don't know if I dare say that now about the fire.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you're not mentioning who the company was.
I can always cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had, then the owner was having a plant, and he was a mechanic and so on. They were doing some work on a machine. I don't know if it needed to be done. Anyways, they were doing welding, and it was called a sticker. You could put a square piece of wood on one side, and outside the other side comes the molding, and so on. They had a lot of shavings there, and all at once that place lit up because it caught fire.
The sparks and the shavings and
Yeah. And then the flame was so big from the wall, almost a bit, not quite the width of this home here. A big flame was going all the way up to the high ceiling and into a cyclone where all the shavings are. That one big flame. And then the owner would yell, water, 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 water. And I knew that, and he knew that too. There is no water back there. The only water was in the front by the entrance and so, with the office. And there was also a mechanical room right next there. And I remember there's a 5-pound dry chemical container with the fire extinguisher. And I went around for that, and I took that. And at Electro Home, when I worked at Electro Home, they trained me to be a fire brigade man, how to put out fires. And then I took the can, and I started at the top, and I covered the flames at the top all the way down, and so, and there was still fire, but then all at once, it collapsed like a cloak. The fire was out.
Wow.
Now, they might have been thinking the insurance might help. I don't know. So that's in my mind.
You think it could have been deliberate?
Yeah,
And
possibly,
maybe
yeah,
that the
yeah.
boss wasn't so happy that,
Yeah, you put it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
They-
Interesting.
They were
never
not
know.
really, they were not really that appreciative.
Sure. Right. When you might have saved
You
the whole
would have
thing.
thought they would have been really happy, but they were not really
Uh
happy.
huh. I see. I see.
So that gave me the idea that there could have been another reason.
Yeah.
But then when I phoned, when I was finished there, and I had to leave Preston Building Supplies because I had pinched sciatica nerve and things that I couldn't stand on my feet. And then I phoned them and I said, Ross, I said, how is everything going? Oh, he says, Art, there's a few years now, albeit there are different people here and none of them can do what you can do. We don't have anybody right now.
So this was after the window company again?
Yeah. And then just before I left that company, the Preston Building Supplies, the owner at Christmas time, he gave everybody $1 raise. Art got a quarter. I said, Ross, I'm not averse as much the other guys that you give me a quarter and the other ones, they all get $1. They said, well, you're the most paid guy in the place here right now. And we thought you might be able to be okay with that, what you got. I said, and then when I phoned them after, you know how they're doing, and so I asked them, well, what would the job pay? What would you pay for a guy? They give me a $3 raise right away.
So in between that time, so you left there for a few years when they only gave you a quarter raise, and then a few years later after this window company and all that, you called them again and their attitude was totally different because they couldn't find anybody to
Right.
replace you. Eh?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I worked at the building supplies there and I had to quit, then I was, I don't know, was it a heel spur that I had or was it the sciatica?
Yeah.
One of the two. And I was laid up and so on, and finally, oh yeah, I had a kidney stone.
Mm.
But I was laid up then, and that was the time, so because I had to quit the job at Preston Building because I couldn't do my job. I couldn't stand on my feet.
Because of the kidney stone.
No,
Oh, it's
because of
the other.
the heel spur or what
Right.
it was.
Right.
And then I was home, and so then after, because I was gone away from there for a while, they hired somebody else. So then I got a job over at a furniture factory in New Hamburg. And then when they learned what I can do, they put me in charge of a place where they made all the samples and the prototypes for the things that they would build. But then all at once, I had a problem, a big pain here on my side, and I went to the clinic, and they said, you got a kidney stone, a big kidney stone, you're gonna have to go to the hospital right away. So I went to the hospital, they kept me there. And they said, if we cannot do anything, it won't come out on its own because it's too big. So then the guy said, oh, we just have a small incision and you'll be okay again. So they put me out when I woke up at a zipper from here all the way around the waist. And I said to the guy when he came, the doctor, the surgeon, I said, I thought it's gonna be a small incision. What's a big incision? You cut the people in half and then put it back together? Oh yeah, I kept on moving, and we had to go further, you know. And then I was down then.
Yeah.
So then I stayed home in bed and so on. I started getting better somewhat. And then the manager from the window factory, not from the furniture factory, he came and visited me on the farm then. And then when he left, he gave me an envelope, And so, and then when he was gone, Mom and Ivy opened the envelope and there was $100 note in there. And that came in good. I phoned him, I said, Dad, thank you very much for that $100. I could really use it. It comes in right handy right now. He said, you know what, Art? When I came back to the shop, to the factory, I went to the owner, and the owner and Ivy agreed that we would like to hire you as a foreman for us. Would you accept? I said, where would you want to put me? Finishing room? I said, no, I'm not a finisher. I can do a little bit of finishing, but I'm not a professional finisher. And I said, oh, you will do it. We know you will do it. I said, okay, well, I said then, when they hired me then, and he, got my name and everything in place, then I said, you know what, Ed? If I don't work out, and you'll have to let me go, you don't have to feel bad about it, because you're not my provider, God is my provider, I said. And, right away the first day when I started, I fired a girl.
You fired someone.
Yeah. They had a production line with about 20 girls on that production line, and going through the oven and spraying all the furniture, lacquering and that and so on. And she and her friend, they went at the end of the line. We had people there, they would package everything up in big cartons and so for shipping. And they enticed the guy that he would pull one girl's pants down. I went over there and I learned that, and I said, listen, this is not what we do here. We're a factory here, we manufacture furniture, and so we don't pull on pants and then make trouble like that. That doesn't belong here. You go and collect your pay from the office if they'll be ready for you. So then that set the tone. And from then on, and then there was a big girl by the name of Sheila. She was a British girl and big mouth, and she was a spokesperson there all the time. Oh, Art, you're running the machine too fast. I said, Sheila, they're not too fast. You can keep up with that quite easily. I'd like to see you do that. I said, sure. I put on the paper coat, and I stood in the row with them, and I glazed the furniture, and marked, that you put a pattern on that, it looks like wood grain, and so, and I took the coat off, no more words, that was it. But that's the experience I had in that furniture factory. And I've been there for a while, and then one day, and I was in charge of closing the place up and everything, and Oma and Harvey, they were sitting outside in the car. It was hot summer, and it was just quitting time, finished for the week, and so and I had everything locked up. Then I got a phone call from upstairs from the owner. He says, gonna have a customer coming yet to see him about some special tables, and so can you run me a table before you go home? Oh, I thought, what am I gonna do now? Mom's sitting out there, Oma, and Harvey, and her mom, Emily, Oma, short temperature, like she had a short fuse. And then of course it was very hot, and I didn't want to do that to her. But I did what I had to do, and I ran it through the oven, I brought it upstairs on the elevator and put it in his living room, in his office, big office, and a big pile of white carpet, And there was a little bit of moisture still, that it completely didn't dry completely at the bottom.
The table.
And got onto the carpet.
Mm.
To me, and I knew it, I saw it, but I didn't want to go and collect cartons and all that, and so put it under there because Mama was waiting outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't going to do that. I was tossed between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife meant more to me than the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
I
you
told,
rushed,
I told him that Monday came. He said, did you know that you still had some finish on that to stain my carpet? I said, yes, I did. Why didn't you put any cartons on that? And so I said, well, sir, my wife been waiting outside in the car and she's splitting it out, and we didn't have no air conditioning not in the car, and I thought I can do this on Monday, like today. I'll clean it up and it'll be okay again. But I think that was the reason that they let me go early. They said they were running short on orders, and so and then I looked around and I got a job at the window factory.
Mm-hmm. Would you do it differently?
No.
Good answer.
My wife, my family means more to me than a job.
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
Yeah, that's good.
When I was in the basement building, and I was almost, that I felt okay, I was offered that I could, because I couldn't work in the shop yet, and so then they said, okay, if you want out, you can assemble some dining room chairs for us. And we give you, I don't know, was it $3 a chair to assemble it? Okay. Looked at what I got. They had beautiful material coming from either China or Taiwan. It was very, very nice. Lacquered, high glass furniture, beautiful stuff. They had pleated holes for different bolts and different things, and everything just fitted perfect. Nice material. They say they can't do nothing good over there. They just don't tell you. They buy the cheapest crap and they put the market up to 300%.
Mm-hmm.
And you just wonder if they're just after the money. But anyways, and then the legs of the shears were going out at
They're
the
on an
bottom,
angle.
braced
Yeah.
away, and they were rounded legs, and you can't put a clamp on there without leaving a mark on glossy, nice furniture.
Mm.
So I prayed about it. I said, Lord, it looks like a nice job. It's very tempting. And so on, it seems it's a fair bit of work. How can I do this? And the
And
Lord showed
make
me
money.
then,
Yeah.
go get one of the big hydraulic brakes on the transport trucks. You hear them, lots of power. And hook onto that, make yourself an airline from there to the, and I made a cutout in the bench so that I could put the chair upside down and put the legs in and the braces, and I put a belt around it,
Like a seat belt.
like a seat belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I hooked up to the air system. And the lever, I had to watch how much pressure, that it doesn't break it because it was power. And then it would go crack, 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 crack. And the thing was together, put the screws in, there's another chair. And I made so many chairs that they came as a transport truck to pick it up
And filled it. Yeah.
every week.
Every week. A full transport truck.
Wow.
Just him and Mom.
No, not Mom.
Didn't Mom help you?
No, not
No?
Mom.
I thought she was helping you.
No,
Oh, wow.
just myself.
Wow.
And I was down the bottom, and Jimmy Swaggart was singing, and I thought, okay,
This is the life.
Yeah.
Eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I felt the Spirit of God so many times there.
Knowing you're in His will, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing.
Yeah,
And He's answering the prayers.
yeah.
Even though you don't have much to show for it, you're still poor.
Yeah.
But He's coming through all the time for you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You've had a lot of adventures.
I made
Yeah.
good money.
Yeah.
And I made so many chairs that the manager said, Art,
We
you're
were
going to
getting
have to
one.
stop now. We got so many chairs,
Yeah.
more than tables.
How or why or both? How did you start arts?
Then, when the window factory came to close, just a minute now, let me do this right. Then I went to Preston Building Supplies, but then I guess I must have had some reason or so that sickness or what again,
Maybe,
pinched nerve or whatever.
what's that before Beaver? Because then you went to Beaver.
Yeah,
They're building the Beaver.
after when to De Lorenzo's, they wanted to give me a good job. The
Oh.
people, they made fancy furniture for people in Toronto. And I would have almost gone for it, but I thought I'd like to be on my own. I'd rather be on my own, you know, look around some more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned at Beaver Lumber Store. There was a new Beaver Lumber Store being put up on 24 Highway on Haskell Road. I thought, I'm going to find out there. Went over there, talked to the owner, and he says, Art, I just gave that job. I asked him, do you have a woodworking shop like they have in Kitchener? He says, yes. I said, do you have anybody to run your shop? He says, I just gave that job away just a couple hours ago to somebody. He says, you can go and see him, he'll like to give you a job. I said, no, that's not what I wanted. But I'll go anyways and talk to him a bit. So I went to the back and talked to the guy. He says, Art, I'm scared to do this job. You worked up at Canada Office and School Furniture, and you know I made special moldings for the manager there. And I did all the wood turning and this stuff, you know, in a special department, away from all the production. And then lost my train of thought.
Well,
So
you
he
were
was-
talking to the guy, and he wasn't even looking
Yeah,
forward to doing
yeah.
it.
Then he said, Art, and I could read blueprints and everything, you know. And in furniture factories where I worked before, I set up machines for the foreman because he couldn't even read the blueprint. And then he said, I'm scared to do this job. He said, I'm just a carpenter. And you're a professional. You should be doing this job and I should be installed whatever you make.
Mm-hmm.
I said, do you really mean that? He said, yes, I do. He said, I'm scared to do this job. I said, okay, should I talk to the owner, mention that to him? He says, yeah, you tell him. So I went to the office, I said, what was his name? Anyways, I said, this is what the fellow told me in the back. He said, Art, you got the job. So then I made out with him, so I could run the woodworking shop in my name.
Mm.
Not that it depend on Beaver, in my name.
Mhm.
And then I could
Arts
do
woodworking.
whatever, you know. And yeah, we agreed and so on, and that's how we started, and it went well.
That's cool.
And then,
They were buying countertops from Winnipeg,
yeah,
and they wanted you had to learn how to do all that, but then
yeah. And then David came on board, your dad.
Yeah, in '88, right?
He was
Yeah.
working for the Bell and making all the hookups for the people that could need connection. He came in one afternoon and he was hot, and so, and I was just cutting bridging for what they put on the floors, the braces, and all the 2x2 on an angle and so. And I said to David, Dave, look, every time I put my hand down, 10 cents. 10 cents, 10 cents, 10 cents, and I was just sliding them down that two little trench that I made, and I would fall down into a hopper, and I put a string around 20, and so 10 cents, 10. I said, Dave, can you do that? You think you could do that? He said, yeah. I said, how would you like to come and work for me? He said, Dad, I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
I hired him, and he's good. He's just as good or better than I am
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
now.
I think you guys are very alike in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Both hard workers, clever, good people.
Yeah. When I went from the factory, before I started all that Beaver lumber business, so I worked for Beaver Furniture, and they were one of the furniture. They made the best furniture in Kitchener, in the area, and we bought a bedroom suite from them, and I. From the store from Schreider Butler's Furniture, or Schreider, I think. And it was beautiful rosewood veneer with curved doors, and so everything dovetailed nice and beautiful stuff. I thought it'd be a nice place to work for them. So yes, I applied there for a job. And it so happened that some of the guys from, when they closed Preston the desk, because Canadian Office and Preston Desk, they were one company, and they were at different locations. And the one was at the river by the park in Preston, and they had to close because they had water problems, and so the place was condemned. So then all the people that had seniority, because it was union run, they bumped all the younger guys out, and then because I was one of the ones that were hired later, they bumped me out too. And then the manager came to me, he says, Arthur, I'm so sorry that I have to let you go, because I needed you. I made all this for speech, for school seats, the benches, the seats, and so I made the curved backs and all this sample sport. And he says, you know what? I have no control, it's out of my hand. But I'm going to write you a letter of recommendation, and you can take that letter anywhere else you're going to find a job. And he gave me a nice recommendation. With that, I went to Beaver Furniture, and they hired me. And then the owner, the manager rather, he took me through the plant and showed me what the plant is all about and what they do there and so on. And then he took me into a room. There were a couple big machines, big turning lathes, and boxes full of wood. And so they needed a whole lot of legs turned for the furniture that they made. And they said to me, Art, I got nobody to run these machines. The person that used to run them, he's retired, and I got nobody to do that. I said, well, give me a week and I'm going to get some legs ready for you. And they had no knives, nothing, that would fit, because it was like a lawnmower. And they were spinning like that. And a big knife like that would only cover so much on the leg. And there was a lot of weight of all the knives, and you had to put them in with bolts and so tight, real tight and all. And you had to weigh it so that one wouldn't be heavier than the other.
Otherwise,
so
the machine will just be throwing out of.
to be balanced
Yeah.
perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would start the machine, boom, 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 stop right away. And
'Cause
then
it's out of
I made
kilter.
my adjustment
Yeah.
until it was good. And then at the end of the week, I had a whole bunch of legs turned and
Wow.
my spade was like that.
Wow.
So,
Hmm.
yeah. So then in that factory, I worked there for a while, and I still got the memory of that. I did, they wanted me to come back a lot of times in the evening yet and do some work after work because I could run the shaper and some others couldn't. And so then one night I worked there and I bumped by turning a piece of wood over on the machine, and I bumped one of those big templates that they had the jigs in hanging down with a rope from the ceiling, and they came off and it hit me here and it
Mhm.
knocked me out.
Knocked you out.
Wow.
Knocked me out. I was dizzy, and I sat on the shop truck and I tried to get to my senses, and so and the night watchman came along and he said, "What are you doing here alone?" And so I said, "Shit, this is what I'm doing." He said, "You shouldn't be working here alone." I said, "Yeah, I know about it."
Concussed.
Yeah. Wow.
So here's the evidence. I never went away completely. I still got a
Wow.
mark here.
Oh.
If I wouldn't have looked up, I would have been dead.
Sure.
because I
It's like a
wouldn't have
Trump
taken
thing.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Do you have a scar from your kidney stone?
Oh yeah.
I still got a line along my waist.
Yeah.
You could maybe see how big it is.
And for a long time.
Yeah, we'll look later.
And
Maybe.
for a long time, when you used to bend over, sometimes it would just cramp, because of the cut. It would like twist on you.
Yeah.
Um,
And at that time, the foreman, who was a foreman there, he could not read blueprints. And I would set up the machines for him, for the people to work on. And I did run most of the material that went through the main library on Queen Street. I did all the shelving there
in here in
in
Kitchener.
Kitchener,
Yeah.
the main
Yeah.
branch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's nice.
Yeah, I left a lot of memories in Kitchener.
Yeah.
The, the sheriff's office, I made big countertops with an apron hanging all the way down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I think you're well known in Kitchener. You know, a lot of people see you and
Well,
you've met them.
a
You
fair
introduce yourself.
amount of people know me.
Yeah. Opa, so you told us about a lot of jobs where you were managing people, but was it only arts where you were your own boss and had employees?
When I started people with lumber, I made arts custom woodworking.
Mm-hmm.
And then when David came on board, and so I changed it to arts countertops.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'd never make any countertops because it was such a terrible job to get those joints together in time
Mm-hmm.
because of the glue would set up so fast and so.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, how am I ever going to make some money with that? And so, you know. So I didn't really like it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got better at it and so. And then David, your dad, he's just as good as I am, no better now.
I wouldn't say that, but
What were some of your values as far as being a manager? What was important to you?
Important to me was that I would do well with the business. The business would produce and good income
Mm-hmm.
and so on, a good reputation and so, and don't cheat anybody and give them their money's worth. But at the same time, you know, you have to earn some money too. So, but by being a decent, honest person, people get to know you and they talk about you and they come back to you.
Mhm.
And not only that, a lot of other people get references and so from them and so on. It helps the business.
Sure.
Mhm.
What about dealing with employees and stuff? What was your style
Employees.
there?
Employees, I treat them like a human being. I didn't think that I was any better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I expect, that they do their job,
Mm-hmm.
because you pay them what they're worth. When they're not worth anything, they don't get as much.
Sure.
And if they're good, you pay them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you got to keep the ones that can do a job, you want to keep them and have a good business that people have respect for and appreciate the people that they're doing business with.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Did you like working with my dad?
always.
I know he's right here, so you have to say yes. But
No, he doesn't.
I always did. I'm always happy when he's been along.
what was your like? Are there any good memories you have about certain jobs or certain things, or is there any one thing that was the best?
Well, one time we had to go to kitchen in a hurry because we were flooded out. We had all the dry lumber sitting outside the building shop on Bishop Street.
Yeah, that was in the very early days.
And then I just had an impression that I have to go home. Something's wrong, something's not right. So then, and it was pouring. We had to get the lumber in as fast as we could with the tow motor. And so that upset, it was not nice. And then we had a guy, his name was Larry,
Gary.
or Gary.
Gary. Yeah.
He would not help or anything. He was an important person. He had the rights and all that, and we let him go. We didn't need a guy like that. So then we came to Kitchener, and Oma was just back from the farm, and she destroyed the place on the farm that made partitions and all that for the dogs. She took everything apart. Even after when Oma was passed away, I had to pay over $1,000 to pay for the damage.
Was she just she was frustrated or something?
She was so
Right.
frustrated because she wanted me to put the kennel up in Kitchener so fast, and I didn't have the time to do it because I just moved and we were busy.
That was when they were just moving from the farm to this house here,
Mm-hmm.
and we were still working in Cambridge, so it was a lot of
Yeah.
balls up in the air.
Yeah.
So that's my dear, gentle Emily that I'm married.
So then we had to come here and set up like really fast because she was stuck then, eh?
Yeah,
We had to screw all these pens together and stuff in the rain.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe we can skip a little forward because I want to make sure I ask you about this. When Oma died, can you tell me a little bit about that? I'm sure that was probably the worst part of your life, maybe.
Yeah, it was a hard time.
She wasn't sick or anything, right? It was.
She had a stroke
A
the year before that.
Oh, she
A
did.
light stroke.
Okay.
And then when she was about to turn 63 on her birthday, she came to me and she said, "Dad, as a birthday present to me, and I've been thinking about that for a while, would you like to retire as of today? Because you worked hard all your life, and so let's just, even if we had a double garage only or whatever, as long as we could be together and, become comfortable."
Yeah.
And then she said, as a birthday present to me, I would like you to retire. And I thought about it, well, maybe she's got a point, maybe she's right. The shop is running good. David knows what he's doing. Okay. Then she called David from the shop and she said, "Your dad and I, we just agreed that as a birthday present to me, he's going to retire as of today. You're in charge of the shop now. It's all up to you now.
Oh, I.
And don't ask your dad to come and help you. He's mine, he belongs to me now. And then that morning, your dad he had a bit bigger job or whatever. He asked me if I could help him lay out that job yet.
Uh-huh.
So I said, do you know what your mother said? After I
I don't
used
remember
this
this.
once, I said, David, do you know your mama? Oh, come on. And so, okay, David, I come. But then after that, you know what,
So let's pause for a second. You were actually going to retire just as of that day.
Yeah.
You weren't going to like sell.
That was the last day.
Just like that.
It was just like that.
Wow.
Yes. And then I came up from the shop and Oma was standing in front of the house on the driveway. And I came up the driveway and she put her finger toward my face. She said, you lied. You promised. And I thought, Lord, how am I going to get out of this one? And then I thought, how would you like to go to the botanical garden in Hamilton? You'll spend a day there. Yay, she says. About 15 minutes later, she was all pretty, dolled up, nice and so ready for the day.
Mhm.
So we spent the whole day there, and I took a lot of pictures of her.
I remember. I've seen those pictures. They're really
And
nice.
if I wouldn't have taken those pictures, I would have hardly any picture of her or of our family, because we never took many pictures.
Hmm.
But then I was happy to have those pictures.
Hmm.
And you know what? A few days later, she was upstairs, and now me being home now, and I'm a person who always got up early. I was already downstairs, changing the paper. We had a big flight cage with birds in it, canaries and finches and all kinds. Then I would change the paper and feed the birds and give them water and that. And then Oma was coming down the stairs. And I said, Emily, I'm just about finished. Why don't you go and just get ready? We'll go to Tim Hortons right away after I come up. Which we usually every morning we would go to Tim Hortons around 9:30. And okay, she went back up again. And then I went upstairs after it was done. Looked over, the bed wasn't made. And so, which is unusual, she usually makes the bed right away and so on. She was not there. Then I saw she was in the washroom. And then all at once the door opened and Oma came out of the washroom, staggering, and her eyes were funny. That reminded me of when she had a stroke. And
You
right
knew
away-
it, like you knew it was the same thing.
Yeah, I connected right away, and I laid her on the bed and phoned the ambulance right away. And she went in a coma and never woke up. That was sad.
I'm sorry, that's really hard.
Yeah. Then after they moved her to London, and I asked them in the hospital if they would let me stay there while she was there. She was on the machine, and I would look her up every so often, even at nights. I would be there several times. And then one night I was singing a chorus to her. Gott verlässt die Seine nicht, die Seine nicht, die Seine nicht. Gott verlässt die Seine nicht, vertraue nur auf ihn. Just trust in God, you know. And
God verlässt the, what does that mean? God verlässt the Seine nicht.
He does not leave you alone or
Oh, okay.
be by yourself. He's always there for you.
Yeah.
And then it seemed to me that I saw a tear coming from her eye. That summer, they wanted me to lead the camp choir again, which I did a couple of years. And then I talked to the pastor, and he was very sympathetic and so forth. He says, Brother Art, if you need anybody right now, you need them the most. Your people, your friends at the camp, they'll be a good support for you. And then, I don't know, Joe and Harold, and they all wanted me to go to the camp and be there, and so on. And I said, okay, I agreed. And then we were singing that song because that was one of my selections for the camp meetings. And when I played that, and I was standing with the back facing the congregation and looking at the choir, and then we were singing that song, and all at once I choked. I couldn't sing no more. I was playing the accordion. I kept on playing, and the choir people, a lot of them from Kitchener, they knew what happened, and they would keep on singing, you know. Because all at once I saw in my mind's eye, I saw Oma in the bed. Sing no more.
She was too young. It's not something I know you never would have planned for it, and it's hard. You'll see her again.
And then the pastor asked me to pray at the congregation, over the congregation for the opening service of the opening of the meeting. And I thought, if you would know how I would feel,
Take somebody else, eh?
you would have picked somebody else. I told him that later. She was half of my life.
I know.
I lived, that's all I lived for. My family.
I know.
Nothing else matters.
That's right. Sometimes I feel sad when Beth and I leave your place, because I know we're going home together and you're by yourself.
There are times they're not so good in your life, but you know God is in everything. He led me to come to Canada. I became a new person. He led me through all these many years, up and down and all that. He was always there when I needed him. And then I got to know Tante Lydia, who was my best friend's wife, and I trained her to be a carpenter. I don't know if I ever mentioned that. I was trimming houses at the time, and he was his father-in-law, Uncle Eugen. They were on top of a roof in the winter and shingling a roof, and he come inside and to warm himself and have the sandwich or lunch. I said, Ludwig, what are you doing on the roof? Why are you up there? Why don't you come work for me? Then we can be together again and so on. You don't have to be on a roof. He says, I don't think I can do what you're doing there. I said, you don't have to do everything that I'm doing. Start with something easy, and so when I learned my trade, I didn't learn my trade in 2 days.
Oh, but this is the holy man, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the man that you met in the factory, in the
Yeah.
wood factory.
Yeah.
Same person.
Yeah.
And they were such good people to me.
So you continued to be friends with him throughout your life?
Yeah, we were best friends all of our life. And one time we needed to do a job in Hamburg, and it was in the winter. And I phoned him, Elmer Evers, you know the Evers, he was a builder. He wanted me to do his timber. And I phoned up Ludwig before the weekend. I said, can you pick up the machines and in the morning and bring them over, the power tools and that?
Yeah.
And then, yes, sure. And so he came in the morning, he picked up his tools and put them on the truck and so and brought it over, or wanted to bring it over. And he drove on the highway from Galt to Blair, the back highway, and the road made a turn at once, and then it was all nice pavement and so on. And the road had a slope towards the outside, and it was icy, and his car slid into the outside against the curb and came to a stop. And then right after him there came a truck and hit the car so hard that he flew out. He was laying in the field. The car door was at one place, and all my tools were scattered in the snow. And he was a big man. Uncle Rudy was a big man, about 230 pounds all muscle. He had arms less than twice my size. You know, it's just like the whole family, they were like that.
Yeah.
And when I got saved in that house, when I first came to them, they invited me for dinner when he was going to show me the place where it could maybe be a border.
Yeah, you told us about that.
Yeah, and then they were all sitting in a row. They're all big guys, you know. And even Jackie, the youngest guy, is 3 years younger than I, was just as big or bigger than I. Anyways, yeah, and then he had a ruptured spleen. They had him in the Galt hospital, and so on. And when he came home after a few years, he grew a tumor in his head. And it pressed on his eye nerve so much that he became blind, and he was blind for 7 years.
Wow.
And then at the end of 7 years, at that time, the family insisted that he should get operated on. He always thought that the Lord would heal him, which it didn't happen. And then he would get some seizures. He would bite himself sometimes too. And so then they decided he should get operated on. So they had, I think, a 6-hour operation that night. And the operation came out all right, but because he lost so much blood and so from all this surgery and so, it flooded his lungs and it choked him and he died.
How long after the operation was that he died?
Well, just several hours, a couple of hours.
I didn't know that was the circumstance that he died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That must have been a hard loss for you too.
Yeah. Well, and then he was, when Oma died, Lydia was already 3 years by herself as a widow. And then I got a notion one time in the evening, I just phoned her. I said, Lydia, how are you doing? You know, I just wanted to be in touch with them because they were friends. I never had any other thoughts but just updating a little bit. And then she told me she had a lot to talk about, and I said, Lydia, why don't I ask you all to come tomorrow morning maybe for breakfast? We'll have a breakfast together, and then we'll talk a little bit about our families and so. Yeah. So I picked up in the morning. We went to Oscar's on Victoria Street, and we had the breakfast together. And so, and then on the way out, she put her arm in my arm. And I didn't know what's going on now, you know. Anyways, okay, so be it. So we went to the car. She wanted to go in the driver's seat with me and drive the car. I said, no, lady, you gotta go on the other side.
You gotta let go now.
Then I knew there's something going on.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, we got, we were friendly and so together somehow. And then we agreed, and Rosie, the daughter, and they said to her, and she told me that later on, go after Uncle Art. He's alone now and he's a softie. You know, he'll be all right.
You're a
know.
catch.
So that's what happened. We got married, and it was a good marriage. She was a good woman.
Yeah.
She was, in many ways, she was different from Oma. She was nice in her own way, but she was, in German sagt man ein Trampel. You know, like I don't know.
Not as
catch the word.
a different class.
She's a different class, you know.
Yeah.
Not so up to. And she would wear dresses, long and on the heels and so on. And Oma would lots of times when she would sew her own dresses and that. Then she would come to ask her if she would make a dress like she has. Then it could look like sisters, she said. So she liked what Oma did, you know. And Oma would sew her dresses sometimes. And so when we got married, I worked on her right away. I bought her some different clothing, got different clothing and so on.
Sure.
And she looked quite decent, nice. Anyways, that's the way it is. Oma was a good baker. She was a good cook. Tante Lydia was a better eater.
But you know what? It's the differences in people that are exciting.
Yeah, that's right. Because she probably had some qualities that
But
Oma
she-
didn't have.
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
She loved the Lord.
Yes.
She sure did. Yeah.
That's nice, Opa. Opa, you know what? I think that's a good time to stop for today. I'd love
Yeah,
to
we're
talk to you
almost 5 o'clock.
more, but I'm gonna go pick up my friend.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think we pretty
covered-
much rounded it out, eh?
We did. Maybe we have room for another conversation, but I got to hear a lot of what I wanted.